You think it's a game? You think it's game? Y'all gon' make me lose my mind. Hey, yo, what's my name? Y'all gon' make me go all out. DMX. Y'all gon' make me act a fool. Hey, yo, what's my name? Y'all gon' make me lose my cool.
I've tried so hard.
What you really want? What you really want?
But it doesn't even matter. Come on. I've tried so hard.
What you really want?
It doesn't even matter. But it doesn't even matter. Come on.
Boy, give me a sign. Dog, I meet bitches, the street bitches, slash, Cocoa Puff, sweet bitches, make you wanna eat bitches, but not me.
I tried so
I fuck with these hoes from a distance. The instant they start to catch feelings, I start to. What is it you want from a? I gave you, you gave me. I played you, you played me.
been down so far. But in the end, it doesn't even matter.
Welcome everybody to another edition of the Showcase Pod. I am Don Vega, and like always, I'm joined by the boss, Chris Blackheart.
It's good to see you today.
Well, it's good to see you too.
It
at
is.
times. But today, again, we got another very special guest on the pod. Stiff Mike Apocalypse joining us. Are you there, brother?
Up? What's up, gentlemen? How are you?
What's going on, brother? It's been a long
All is
time.
good.
Yep, it has been. Just keeping it steady up in New Hampshire.
Keeping it steady and keeping it stiff.
So Mike, we'll get right into it here. I want to go back to Little Mike. How did Little Mike get hooked with the professional wrestling bug?
So I grew up in Springfield, Mass, and my aunt and uncle owned a restaurant, and the wrestlers would come to the Springfield Civic Center, which is now the Mass Mutual Center, and they would come in after the show and eat dinner. And I met a few of them: Catu Albano, Freddie Blassie, Superfly Jimmy Snuka, and I just got hooked. And I started watching it at the age of 5 or 6, and I always said I wanted to do it, and here we are. I moved out to Boston area when I was 24. I hooked up with Killer Kowalski around the age of 26, and still semi-going strong.
Okay, so going back to, again to like childhood, did you play any sports growing up in school or?
Yeah, I played baseball, I played football, and I played hockey.
Okay, Chris.
All right. So when I think of the classic Killer Kowalski, and tell me if the timeline was right. It was Bo, Wagner, yourself, Jason, myself.
Yep.
Because I started, if I'm not saying like May of '97. When did you actually start?
I started in February of '96.
All right. So how was that? Tell people about that. What would you?
I actually started before that with the biggest piece of trash walking God's green earth, Rocky Raymond.
Oh,
yeah.
Don't save that for the name game.
Like,
I tell the story, but
God damn it! I gotta apologize, Rocky. I missed your call last night. I still gotta call you. I'm a little bit behind.
Well, I'm behind like 3 weeks from the
last time.
Okay.
All right, that's my fault. So, what was the feeling? Now, this is when Walter was in Malden.
Yes. Yeah.
What was that feeling going up those Emerald Steps for the first time? And meeting Walter.
Nervous, because I knew who Walter was. And I watched old stuff. I used to watch all the old WWF stuff and the USWA on ESPN and Memphis Wrestling and stuff like that. So I was more or less not really nervous, but infatuated because he was always bigger than life to me. You know what I mean? And then when you met him, the same kind of feeling. But once you got to know Walter, it was like family. I mean, you know that Walter's school was like family, like no matter what. I mean, we all stuck together and traveled together up to Maine and stuff like that. So I mean, and I used to do stuff for Walter. I used to drive him the raw. I used to drive him like because he couldn't see, he had cataracts. So at night you couldn't drive. So you'd ask because I lived right on the corner from him. He asked me to drive him, certain places.
So, training with Walter in your class, was it was it up to the expectations that you were looking for as far as training? Did it
Yes, yes, very much so. Um, I made the right choice to go to Walters because I am in my 50s. I'm still able to work.
okay? You go back and recall what was your first match and who you wrestled?
My very first match was a battle royal. It was it was actually in Gary, New Hampshire, and it was for Savano Souza.
Okay, Dave
And
Souza. Yep.
um, it was myself, Jay, Wagner was there, Damon D'Arcangelo was in there, Freight Train Dan. That was like my first ever in front of a crowd. Was
Okay.
a battle royal, which everyone starts in a battle royal. You
Yeah,
know
yeah.
that.
Hmm.
For the most part, that's your first introduction to like the wrestling world. As
Yeah,
far as wrestling, your first match, whether singles or tag team, do you recall?
yeah. It was for Tony Atlas in EWA in Maine,
Hmm.
and it was against Tony Atlas, which was my first match.
Okay, so that must have. What did that feel like? I mean, Tony Atlas is an easy
I
guy.
felt like I felt like a 5-year old in the ring.
Okay,
Like
You
I
want to
watched
build
him
off that
growing up.
question?
Him, the Iron Sheik, all them guys.
okay. What do you got?
So that was your first singles match, and against
Yes.
Tony.
Yep.
What did Tony give you for advice, and what
Um.
did you take from that match?
Jesus.
I mean,
Just listen. And Walter would say the same thing. Like you're green. You listen to the ring general. You do whatever he tells you to do, and it still sticks to me that day. If I'm in there with somebody that's been in the business longer than me, I give them the reins and do what they want to do. And I try to tell the younger generation in this business the same thing, but it falls on deaf ears sometimes.
uh, it is very painful, and the reason I
Yes.
asked you about that with Tony, we were just having a conversation with a youngin, and he had the pleasure of working with Tony recently, and
Yeah.
the answers I was getting, and they didn't come from me. I got a secondary conversation, and I'm like, "Are you kidding me? This is what you're saying and asking. This is your feedback of working with Tony." I didn't get it.
Yeah, yeah,
Well,
definitely.
I mean, these kids nowadays, and not to go off the rails, but they want to get all their stuff in and they want to be over and they don't want to pay their dues. And it just drives me insane because when we were coming up in the business, that was said about us.
Yeah.
But that wasn't true though, because we had people to put us in our places, like Fuller. You had Trey. You had Matt Bloom was around at the time. So them guys would put us back in our place and reminded us who we are and how green we are. These kids nowadays don't want to hear it at all.
Oh yeah, it's different times now. Everybody's entitled. Everybody's catered. I mean, they do. Some of the kids are really talented. They do put on, a heck of a show, and they do a lot of stuff that's impressive. But it's not all about the moves, as you
No,
know. It's more the psychology and making that connection with the people.
and
Speaking of connections, what were some of the companies in your beginnings that you got to work for?
I worked for, like I said, Tony Atlas. We were on the very first ever True Life. I am a professional wrestler on MTV. Um, I worked down in Connecticut. Did some shows with Kevin Kelly. I mean, I don't remember all the promotions because at the time it was me, Jay, and Bo, and we were going all over New England working for different people. I mean, I worked for Top Rope. Um, I worked for Sheldon for a while, but that was later on. But in the beginning, it was basically Tony Atlas and then anybody New England.
So in the
Tony
beginning, when you
Rumble.
first started, were you already Apocalypse or you were Stiff Mike?
No, I was Mike. My first ever wrestling name was Boulder, and that was given to me by Tony Atlas, and I hated it. And then I did a show, and in the beginning, I had really bad stage fright. Like I would puke before I had to go out. So Steve King came up with the idea of painting my face, and that's where Apocalypse was born, because I am a huge comic book nerd and a Marvel nerd, and I love like the X-Men and stuff like that. So I used Apocalypse, and that's how he was born. And then it just Tony loved the face paint gimmick, and it went on from there.
Okay. Chris.
On that timeline, you started doing Apocalypse.
Yeah,
And then you started doing a tag with, if I'm not mistaken, it was Derek, correct?
it was Derek. Yeah, well, originally it was Vinny Capelli. Then he blew his shoulder out, and then it ended up being with Derek. Yes.
And how was that switching from a singles to a tag? And what was the timeline from that too, between year and years on the business?
Let's see, that happened in '99, right after Tony Rumble passed away. So I was probably like maybe 4 years in the business. And I mean, that tag team with Derek and I, it took off. I mean, we actually got a really good look from the original NWA. And I was getting married in 2000, and we were supposed to go to the 52nd anniversary and win the NWA tag titles, but he blew his knee out a week before playing basketball, and that went down the drain. So that tag team, I mean, as much as people didn't get along with Derek, and I got along with him to a point, and we worked really well together in the ring. The chemistry was there.
So, you were doing the Apocalypse gimmick, and then Stiff Mike was after.
Yeah.
After that, how does
Chris knows how I got the name Stiff Mike, don't you, Chris?
Let me see. So,
Chris Blackheart forgets shit.
no, I do forget a lot. And
So, all right.
well,
so
I'm thinking
I
of
was
one
going by-
story.
I was,
All right.
I was tagging and NWA
right.
New England with Trooper.
Okay, that's
Corporal
the story I was
Johnson.
thinking then.
And we were doing a punching drill at school, and I knocked somebody's tooth clean out of his mouth, and Walter goes, "God damn it, that was stiff," and it stuck. Everyone started calling me Stiff Mike. So, as a rib to myself, after Jason Rebel took over, I started doing Stiff Mike.
So how does Stiff Mike? You're hailing from New York City and all that. How does that come about?
Well, I'm a Yankees fan, and I've always liked the Yankees, and I just threw it together and Stiff Mike from Brooklyn, New York.
And did you had was it a resurgence of the New York posse there in NWA? Was
No, that never happened.
that never happened? Okay.
No,
Were you-
I went from Stiff Mike to right into doing Apocalypse full time with NWA New England.
Okay. All right.
So let's fill in the timeline there. So NWA New England.
NWA New England, Tony Rumble died in 1999.
Yeah.
Yes.
Knuckles took it over for a year. For some reason, it didn't work out. And then Ellen asked Jay to take it over and take the Jason Rumble name. He took it over. I ended up becoming his ring crew chief, putting the ring together, fixing the ring, and then I started doing Stiff Mike just as a complete rib to myself, because all the boys will call me Stiff Mike. And then I ended up transforming into Apocalypse, and that's where my run in NWA New England kind of like took off, because I won the tag titles, the TV title, and the heavyweight championship all in the same year. So that was like 2000 to 2001 is when I started doing Apocalypse for NWA New England full time, and then I started booking myself other places as Apocalypse.
So At that point in time, at this time frame, do you had any opponents that you enjoy working against or working with at that time?
I liked working like with Jason and Ball. We always had good chemistry because we trained together. Um, I don't know. It's been so long. I'm trying to think about. I mean, I worked a few times at you, Vega, and
Yeah.
we always had good chemistry. Um, I enjoyed working with Chris. Dan. Enjoyed working with. I mean, there's a lot of guys that I enjoyed working with, and there's guys I didn't like to work with, but I did anyways because we were always told never say no to a booking.
Yeah, yeah, that's the truth. So now, speaking of bookings and getting into different people that you like working or didn't necessarily want to work with, what are some people that because there's always a stigma. Like I got my own, and Chris has his own of different things. Over the years, people have made comments about you legitimately taking liberties with guys in the ring and stuff like that. You want to get into that?
Yeah, that's fine. I knew I was an asshole early on because, like everybody in the business, it gets to your head eventually. And I didn't really take liberties per se. A few times I did on green guys, and again, I knew I was wrong, and it was definitely not the thing to do at the time. And I try to make up for that every day in the business to try to teach these young guys the right way to do things and the wrong way to do things. But then were times where I was paid by certain promoters to take liberties on a few people.
Okay.
I think that's.
And we'll go no further than that.
Oh,
'Cause
come
this
on,
promoter
come
is no
on.
longer- this promoter is no longer with us.
Oh, okay, all right. So out of respect for that, we'll let that one slide.
So, this just brings up. So we are thinking of doing like stuff we can't show, and then do it like on a Patreon, maybe.
Yeah.
The untold stories that you really can't tell. So that could be stories.
Yeah, that could be
So
good.
all right. So now you're evolving. So now we're about 2001. When did you? I'm trying to figure out the timeline between that and weren't you like a founding father of APW? But
No.
that's like 8 years ago. Is that?
No, I was not. I started working for APW. I found about them through Woody used to work for anybody in New England, and Freight Train Dan told me about a show up in Newburyport at the Firehouse. We've worked at Firehouse before, Chris, with 7 people against Brian Maloney.
We found that firehouse.
Yeah,
And it was phenomenal when we booked it because we booked 3 shows and they were so happy to fill it. And I remember after it was the first or second show, they're like, oh man, that was a great show. Probably would have been better if everyone didn't leave Newburyport because they all go on April vacation.
right,
And I'm like, well, that would have been great to know when we booked the hall,
right.
so.
So yeah, so Woody was the promoter of APW, the booker of APW. Joe Mookley was the owner and the promoter of APW. So I hooked up with them. Let's see, 2010. No, 2009. I've been with them, and I still work for APW. I actually help out in Russell, and I also I help out in the back. So it's been it's what 2023 now, more than 10 years.
So,
I'm probably one of the last originals there.
so before the APW run and then your current run there,
Yeah.
you had your own school up in Salisbury.
Yeah.
Can you talk to us about that and what were some
Yeah.
of the students you had there? If any notable New England
So
names?
right, so Cassius Hall was one of my students, and then I had other people that were in and out. Louis Ortiz was my head trainer because my shoot job couldn't be there every day, and then I had oh my God, what's his name now? His work name, Jesus, I can't even think of it anymore. He's a tag team champion in APW. Amato, he was my other trainer on Wednesdays. And that was probably 2000. I took it over in 2018. I had it for 19 and most of 2020, right before COVID hit. And then when COVID hit, the state shut me down and they sold the building. So I had to close the school down. But I enjoyed that. At one time, I had 13 students, and they're, and it was great. The only one notable one that's still working right now is Cassius Hall.
Okay.
I think the part with that, which is ironic, everybody in our circle who started all
Yeah.
had schools currently or at that time.
Yep.
Between Bo, yourself, Wagner, us.
Yep.
So I mean,
Wagner still has his school. Belltime Club is still going strong, and you guys are still going strong. I'm the only one that, because of COVID, I lost the building, which kind of stinks because I enjoy training. I really do.
Yeah.
Cassius Hall, it has all the raw talent in the world to go somewhere, but he gets in his head way too much, and we all know this.
well, you brought him down. You brought him down to us to give some of his first opportunities,
Yes. Yeah.
and then on that. Well, I'll tell a quick training story, which is actually funny. You'll appreciate this, Mike. So the other day, we had some new kids come down, checking out the schools. We had them talk to people, and then guys reminiscing about training. And so I'm catching a story of somebody telling one of the other guys been around for a while about extra training and doing days. Like, oh, it'd be great if if we do Sundays. And then this guy's like, yeah, Chris used to do Sundays, and Steph Mike used to come down, but I'm like, what do you mean, He goes, and he's looking at me, he goes, well, this guy and that guy didn't want to come down because, he thought Mike was just too hot. I'm like, Mike is blunt,
I am very blunt.
Yeah, that's just his style. I said, some days I got to spoon feed it. Mike doesn't do that. Mike cramps it and tells you exactly how it is. And it was just funny because he's dropping names of this guy didn't show up and that guy didn't show up. I'm not saying who it was, Paul Holloway. But it was just funny is just because like they want the training, but you're a different style of training.
They can't take the heat.
And it was just funny. And I like Paul, so I'm just throwing it out there because if he's listening, you're welcome for the plug. But it was funny how a lot of them, they will look afterwards. They're like, that's exactly what you tell us, Chris. But man, he's a fucking hard ass. And I'm like, it's just how we were brought up. Like the basics and the foundation is very similar. It's just Mike has a different way of doing it. But it was just funny. This was literally it was Tuesday night, so I think that's when I sent you a message because I'm like, oh, Mike's gonna enjoy this one. So
yeah, I mean, and I try I don't know, like you said, it's just the way we were brought up. I mean, we were brought up in the business to protect the business, and if you're doing something wrong and you're showing somebody 5 times and they're still doing it wrong because they're not paying attention, it gets on my nerves, and then I start yelling.
Yeah, I mean, I don't mind people not getting it.
Yeah,
but not paying attention. So like a lot of times, like when Vinton comes down, right? He doesn't like playing T-ball. I have to play T-ball to get them ready to go to the minor leagues with Vinton or Vega, or Kenny. It's just I have to start it to get them there, you know. So when you were so you closed, well, you didn't close down because you wanted to, but the state helped close down with COVID, which was those other stories.
Yeah.
Did you have your hand in Next Gen?
Nope.
So you had nothing to do with them?
Nope.
All right.
I offered and I got turned down. They turned me down, which is fine. It is what it is.
Yeah. Because did they start after you, or are you guys kind of going together?
No. So Bud Browning bought Todd Supple's old ring, and he had it in his backyard for a while. I lost one of my students to him, which it is what it is. His name is Larry. He was like 44 years old. Mm-hmm. Nice guy. I like Larry. I like his family. So I got nothing bad to say about him. I get it. Mm-hmm. And then COVID just completely shut me down. And then they opened up maybe middle of 2022. And they had Scott Reed and Mike Hollow training there. And then they had a falling out, and then he moved to Auburn, New Hampshire, and it's just him. And he has some of his students as trainers, which to me, you're not even in the business 5 years and you're training people. Yeah, that's a no-no.
So you kind of had like the only school for a while up in New Hampshire.
Yes.
And then Next Gen popped up, and then Hollow popped up with Scott training. Any did you go over there? Any interest?
No.
Vice versa? Or?
I will not go to their school. We'll leave it at that.
All right. Is that because of Mike or Scott?
Both.
Okay.
Okay. Those are some names we'll drop on the name game.
No, I don't know the story, so that's why I'm asking. I mean, I like poking the bear, but
Yeah, I know you're trying to poke the bear. And it's not gonna
no.
work.
Like I honestly don't know, so that's why I asked. So
Yeah.
So now backtracking a little bit, you had your runs with NWA. Do you work for Liberty States now that you mentioned Todd?
we better
No.
ask it so we don't.
Nope.
You know,
I don't.
Todd and I never really got along, so I never worked for him.
yeah. How about your experiences going? Because I know we met a few times at training over in New Bedford, on and off. Were you Joe Eugenio or Steve Ricard when you came in?
I came down to the Eugenio school just for a tryout. I was looking for work, and Ashworth loved me, Cash loved me because I could work.
Yeah.
I did like a lot of technical stuff. It just never panned out.
So when you did,
And then I worked for a couple shows for Ricard. It didn't work out. New Bedford, that area is a different breed.
Mm-hmm.
They're different than
And
like
they
up
still
here
are.
or Kowalski boys.
were your experience with Steve Ricard a pleasant one, or any memories on that?
Well, you guys are trying to really get me to shit on people, aren't you?
Well, we're open. I mean, I've told my story. I think last week or the week before.
We were told recently on some reviews that they like the raw, and they like the fact that we try to tell the truth, is all about the truth, and how raw it is.
Let's put it to you this way. I have no respect for Ricard for multiple reasons.
Yeah.
One, we worked a show for him, and he paid us in T-shirts instead of money. And then what he did to Scott Howe, I have no respect for him whatsoever.
Okay.
Zero.
Were you there that night, or?
No.
All right.
Nope. I have no respect for somebody that let a person that bad off go out. It was an embarrassment to the business. It was an embarrassment to Scott Hall, God rest his soul. It was an embarrassment to Ricard as a promoter. Yeah. He should have hung it up right then and there.
Yeah, I agree. Definitely agree on that. Chris?
We just had an anniversary 2 days ago.
Yep.
Tell us your thoughts. I can't believe it's been that long, to be honest with you.
Yeah. There's not a day of a show or a moment that I don't think about him. I mean, I have all those pictures on my wall from my school. Walter was special to me because he helped me catch my dream. I've always wanted, since the age of 5, I wanted to be a wrestler. And when I met Walter, to be bluntly honest, I couldn't afford the $1,700 up front, so he let me make payment plan and give me a payment plan. And every month, I paid him $200 a month, no matter what. So I miss Walter. Walter's grip on the New England area in this business is strong. You know what I mean? Like, his lineage goes way back. Like, it continues. You know, you got Ivar that trained at Chaotic under Walter. You know, Tommaso Ciampa. All them guys are cut from Walters. You know what I mean? China, Triple H,
And
Big
Perry
John
Saturn,
Studd,
yes.
Perry Saturn.
Yeah.
So
Cronus, God rest his soul, he's not here with us anymore. But all them guys are Walter boys. You know what I mean? Like when you say you're a Walter boy, it goes a long way because people know that you know how to work and you know how to protect your partner in the ring.
Yep, definitely.
So
when
yeah,
you
I miss him. I miss him all the time. I miss him. You know.
were you at the school when the merger with Kowalski, the Kowalski School and Chaotic? Were you? Do you know those stories? Because I don't. I wasn't
I
around.
was there. So I left the school for a while because I got into it with Mike Hollow, and I said to Walter, "As long as he's here, I won't be here." As soon as he left for Chaotic and went, and Wagner took over, I came back. And I was training. I was there Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, and Sunday. And then when they sold the building to the city of Malden to do the condos, Richard Burns went his way. He wanted Walter to come with him. Walter didn't want to. So he ended up getting kind of back with Mike Hollow. I went up there maybe twice. After that, I stopped going.
So in your return back to Walter School when Mike left,
Yeah.
what were some of the students that were there currently at the school? Do you remember any other guys that were coming up around that time?
So it was Wagner was there as a trainer. He had April Hunter there. He had
Was Eddie Edwards around that time?
yes, yeah, Shitty was there. Tony DeFonso was there.
Yes.
So all them guys were there. And the reason why I call Eddie Edwards Shitty because we always called him Shitty.
Yeah, yeah.
That's who he is.
Yeah.
DC was there for a little while. And, and then there's, Jay came back, Bo came back. So we were all there again, the class that I was with, we all came back.
Okay.
So,
All right. So moving again forward, you start off eventually with APW. Do you start off as a wrestler first, and then you
Yeah.
you
I
go
got
into the
booked.
office?
I started helping out Lewis training because they had a little school in right on the beach in Salisbury, and then they booked me as Apocalypse. A lot of people did. Few of the office people didn't like Apocalypse, so then I said, "Well, I can do Stiff Mike," and then I ended up taking off as Stiff Mike for APW. I mean, I brought Apocalypse back a few times for APW, but it's basically been Stiff Mike.
Okay, so when you talk about Lewis, you're talking about Lewis Ortiz, Demon
Yes.
Ortiz. Where is Lewis? I haven't seen
Lewis
him
is
in a while.
retired.
Yeah.
Once COVID hit, he stopped. Lewis is now he works for the post office.
Oh,
I saw
okay.
him probably last year. He came to a show and he looks phenomenal.
Well, if he watches this, shout out to Lewis. Always a great guy, great worker. What are some of the people that catch your eye now that you're in the office helping in the background at APW? What are some of the young talent that you got your eye on that you think that might be?
So I don't know. Do you know who Steve Stetson is? There's a cowboy gimmick.
Yes.
Yeah, he's a good worker. Monty's a good worker. Kid V's a good worker. They have a lot to learn, but they're getting there. There's a few of them. I mean, there's some of the kids from Next Gen. They're almost there. They're battle royal ready, I should say. There's a few of them that can work a singles match if they're in there with the right person. If they're not in there, if they're in there with two students, it's very tough because it's like deer in the headlights because they get lost really easy. Again, Cassius, but he's in and out right now. Owen Brody's not young, but he's been in the business for a little while. He's there. He's doing pretty good. There's a kid named Cletus he's from the New Bedford area. he was trained by Ilya, and he's very good.
Okay. Chris.
Right. So you're in the back. What are What are issues that you're seeing with the young talent? Is it putting matches together, doing psychology in the matches, making that stuff look believable, some of the basics, the foundations, listening?
Well, I see a lot of times they want to do a lot of spots. Like I have like I don't know, the Young Bucks and do 10 million spots instead of actually working a match. But for the most part, if you give them some sort of, and it's not really like this is what you need to do, but hey, how about you try this instead of that? Because that's how you got to talk to these kids now. Because if you say, well, no, you need to do this, they'll be like, yeah, kiss my ass, I'm doing what I want. But if you say, try it this way, and then, oh, it clicks, yeah, well, it looks better that way. So you kind of like you said, you got to spoon feed them certain ideas.
And that's hard some days. I mean, we've been having growing pains, and we were talking about bookings and learning lessons and see if people can get better from it, and building and growing. It is. I almost feel like I'm like a psychologist some days, just trying to figure out what these kids are doing, how they're thinking it, and never mind the why it throws you off. So let's go in regrets. What do you regret about the business that you either done, saw, or somebody else did? And it could be more than one, or a laundry list.
I let my biggest regret is I let my ego get in the way of what I was there for. Like I love the business. I mean, obviously, I'm 52 years old and I'm still doing it. I'm still involved in it. If I could go back to my late 20s and early 30s and make a change, I would, because it's taken me over 10 years to kind of like fix my reputation in the business, and I still make people nervous, and that's not who I am anymore. So that's my biggest regret. My other regret is that I didn't push myself to go anywhere in the business. I had opportunities with ECW at the time. Walter was going there all the time. I never took it, and I should have. But it is what it is. Everything happens for a reason.
Yeah. So you basically stood around New England, never going out elsewhere?
Oh, I mean, I did. I mean, I wrestled in New York and stuff like that. Yeah, but never really. I never really ventured like to California or anything like that.
Did you do any of those Canadian tours with Jay?
No, nope. At the time he was doing them, I was raising a daughter. My shoe job wouldn't allow me to do that. I would love to go to Canada, at least before I actually hang them up for good this time. I would love to go wrestle in Canada.
This must be the whole week. Do you have your passport?
I can get it, yeah. Not a problem.
Can you goddamn get it, kid? And I only say that funnily because we had the last 2 weeks we have a conversation with our guys about passports and bookings, and that's one of the main things. So yeah, we'll talk afterwards about that, Mike. We may be able to make that happen.
Okay.
So which is good.
Yeah.
So actually, that's a perfect line going down. So you're 52.
Yeah.
Transitioning in the business.
Yeah.
You can't leave. You always come back. Just,
I tried to retire in 2016 and it didn't work.
No, it
Sucked
doesn't.
me right back in.
It's just something about it that pulls us in. It keeps us in. What do you want to do? Okay, so you want to go to Canada. What are other things that you want to do? And I hate to say before you retire, because I'll be honest with you, I don't like when people say they retire. I think in this business, we transition, not retire.
I just want, my biggest thing is I want to pay it forward, because guys like Matt Bloom, and I'll give the devil his due, Mike Hollow, he's one of the guys that trained me. Trey, Cody, All them guys, Tim McNeely, they all trained us. You know what I mean? Um, I just want to pay it forward. Like I want to take what I've learned and my knowledge of the business and pass it on to the younger generation and let them and try to get them to do it the right way. Maybe my way's not the right way. I don't know. Maybe our way, the old school way, is not the right way. But when I see people who don't help with ring crew, don't want to do anything but want to come in, get paid, and asking for ridiculous amount of money and don't want to put nobody over, it drives me insane. I've learned in this business that winning means nothing. We are entertaining a crowd, and if the crowd's not there, we don't have a job to do. Plain and simple. I would look at the lights every night if that's what the promoter told me to do, because I just want to wrestle. I like to entertain people.
I think the job squad is coming back. I like it.
That's definitely a
You
whole
guys
new
suck.
ball game when it comes to like the newer kids nowadays.
Yeah.
The last 3 seconds always make the difference. Chris Blackheart, but nonetheless, Mike, talking about stories and bookings, we started off mentioning a particular guy that Chris hasn't called back. You said
Rocky?
you said you worked from before. Can we get into some
Yeah,
stories?
tell us a Rocky story.
Tell us a Rocky Raymond story.
So before I go and throw him under the bus and drive over him and back up, are you friends with Rocky Raymond?
Yeah.
I missed it.
You are.
Say it again.
What was it?
Are you guys friends with Rocky Raymond?
I mean, we're
He's redeeming himself. Him and Rocky have some issues regarding Tiger, Yellow Tiger, and
man. You said we were getting soft, man. I went to a show several years ago.
But that's old stuff. We're not supposed to dig up old stuff.
It don't matter.
All right,
Mike wants to know. I'm
tell him.
gonna answer his question. So a couple of years ago, he books me for a show. He booked several people for a show. It was
The July 3rd
it
show?
was a Sunday.
July 3rd.
Yeah.
I don't know what the
It
date was, but
Sunday, July
it
3rd.
was a Sunday. It was a noontime show. We had to be there at noon because he wanted to do all his weird promos or whatnot. Had Tony Atlas booked. We get there as he asked us to be there and did the promos or whatnot. Before showtime, there's like 5 people in the audience. But Kowloon's was one of his sponsors. And I seen him with a wad of money in his pocket, probably like $2-3 grand in his pocket. And he comes over to where we were getting dressed at, and at that point in time says that no one's getting paid, that we're all getting checks. We'll receive checks in the mail. He's going to collect everybody's address. So I'm like, Rocky, that's not happening. So, at the time I was teaming up with Jose Perez. We were both on the same page. So we got up, confronted Rocky, and basically told him to go fuck off. We wasn't going to work. So we grabbed our shit. He started, arguing or whatnot. I got up and I told the boys, you fucking guys are assholes for working for this guy. He's got the money, and this is why he does what he does, because you guys don't stand up for one another. You know what I mean? So I went outside and I slashed his tires and I fucked up his truck and I took some of his gear.
I remember this story.
I took some of his gear as bounty.
Going away present.
And I remember the building too.
Yeah, and 2 years or 3 years later, he called me randomly after back and forth bullshit for about a year. He disappeared, came back, calls me, and is like, you got that Yellow Tiger suit? We can start off. It's your old friend Rocky Raymond. We can start off fresh. I'll send you your money that I owe you if in good faith you give me the suit back. And, he sent me the money. I gave him the suit back, and here we are, 2023. He's supposedly running a show again. I don't know.
Well, yeah. So Rocky reemerged, and he was supposed to run a show. When was it? I think August 2nd, but something happened with a venue or two,
Yeah.
He is tentatively scheduled for, I think, the weekend November 2nd. Again, I missed his call today, so I'm
You're
supposed
doing
to.
it on
But
purpose. No,
No,
let's
no.
not bullshit around.
the problem
You just
is,
don't want to
okay,
talk.
if
man.
I'm in a meeting or a conference call or a webinar, I can't grab it for Rocky. And then what happens is a lot of times I'm driving home, like from the school, I'll call him and it works out good. It's a 25-minute conversation. It's a 25-minute drive.
Okay.
So that's why. So,
Getting back to Mike.
but I got to remember.
Yep. Let's get back to Mike. Let's hear your story, Mike.
So I met Rocky Raymond. I had just moved out to this area from Springfield. I was living in Beachmont, Mass, Revere, and he was doing a show in Everett at the high school. I went with a buddy of mine that I had met. We were hanging out. He knew Rocky. Needed somebody to help put the ring up and break it down. Like, I'll do it. I want to get involved in the business. So I started doing rings for Rocky. In trade, he would train me. So then I paid him $1,700 to finish training me, and he skipped on me. Normal Rocky Raymond bullshit. So then, fast forward, I'm at Walters. I'm working for Jason Rumble. He gets all bent out of shape because Jason's using the Rumble name. And him and Tony Rumble used to be a tag team. He calls up threatening Jason Rumble, this, that, and the other. And I told Rocky Raymond, you can meet me outside. I'll beat the fuck out of you for the $1,700 that you owe me. He hung up the phone. I never heard from him again. Because if I ever see him, now it's over and done with. But back then, if I saw him, I would have threw a hammer at his head.
Do you want me to give you his number when we're
No,
done?
no, no.
All right, I won't. It's 781.
Shut up, you.
So was it 781 77?
Well, he's got to be what, in his 70s now?
Early 60s.
Well,
Well,
I just seen him at Fan Fest. He
Yeah.
actually looked pretty good. He lost some weight.
Yeah.
You know,
No, and the ironic part of it, as we get older, we get nicer and different, and I think he's mellowed.
yeah, he was calm.
Yeah, you guys are.
Well,
friends.
I heard he was selling out fake shit. That's what I heard.
Well,
I
it
don't
could
know.
be,
No, I mean,
it could be questionable stuff.
No, he
you know,
had a
but-
good spread out there. I don't know if he made any funds because that was
Well-
for an indie guy that was kind of a tough show.
Yeah.
And Eric Sprazier is actually the one who got me in with Tony Rumble at NW New England because I used to work with Eric and I used to harass him about getting booked for Tony. So Rocky Raymond, to me, he's a typical carny. That's what he is. He's all about himself and nobody else.
Well, speaking of carnies, there was a lot of guys back then, late 90s, early 2000s that were, carnies. You ever work for Sparta?
Yeah, unfortunately.
Tell me a Sparta story.
Wait, do you want to do it again, Richie?
What?
He tells you a story, you tell us a story. We're playing ping
No,
pong.
I have no problem shitting on Sparta.
Okay.
What's he going to do? He's a midget. I'll slap him.
What the fuck?
Here you go. So, I was driving Walter to every Sparta show. Got booked. Was paying me. I was working against Snooki, Darren.
Mm-hmm.
He decided that he wasn't going to pay me that night. And I was making $50 a show. And I was working every weekend. So, Walter looked at me and goes, you do what you got to do. I went up to fucking Sparta and said, where's my money? He goes, I'm not paying you anymore. I go, you're paying me one way or another. He ended up paying me. We'll just put it to you that way because I had him by his chicken neck.
Well, I'm sure you got the line. Listen, you're done. Your career is over. You never work again.
Yeah, my career's over.
Can't pay ya.
Yeah. And that was a show that he had Dr. Tom Pritchard on before the show. He had him there doing a seminar.
Yeah, he would do the camps. Yeah, you got to do the camp.
I set up the ring because it was Walter's ring at the time. So I set it up, made sure everything was okay, and then then worked the show, and he didn't want to pay me. He owed me like $150 that night because I did the ring, put it together, tore it down, loaded it in the truck, and worked the match. Yeah, you're paying me.
Yeah, Mike was notorious for stiffing, no pun intended.
Yeah,
a lot
I
of
know.
the boys that a lot of the boys that used to come from New York or other places, he would definitely. I'll get you next time. I can't pay you. They were all
And
comps.
it's creepy that you even sound like him, by the
Yeah,
way.
he does.
Well, I dealt with him for 10 years, so you
Yeah.
become accustomed to
Yeah.
certain people.
And
certain
I had some great matches with him on his shows. I wrestled some decent. I mean, except for Danny Davis, 7 arm drags later. But
Oh, you
that
like
was a
working Danny? I love working Danny, man. They were easy. I had some good matches with Danny.
yeah.
Like
I mean,
old
you
school,
do
easy
7 arm
matches.
drags in a row. It's like, Danny, come on, let's do something different.
Yeah. I love Danny. But yeah, Mike, all jokes aside, like he never, I know there's a lot of stories that he, like I said, he used to stiff a lot of people for money. He never owed me money. He always took care of me. I had some of my best matches there, so, if Mike
Well, I
sees
mean,
this, I missed the
you're
motherfucker.
gonna-
I would work for him in a heartbeat if he came back again, just because I know I'll piss him off and he'll fire me one day and hire me the next. He used to do that all the time. You're done. Then he'll call me private the next
I
morning.
got that speech, and then I show up at Walter the next show. You got your gear? Yeah, I got my gear. Okay. So I mean, I don't know. It's them guys like Souza and Sparta and Raymond. They're carnies. You know what I mean. They're
That's
out
the way
to,
they were grew up in the
Oh,
business, and that's the way they were taught. So
I mean, here's another Rocky Raymond story. Here's a good one. So he booked a show in the Haverhill Stadium. The football field in Haverhill.
yeah,
He had the Metal Maniac on there. He had Snuka on there. He had, at the time, Brittany Brown was working the show. He had the Wild Samoans on there, and he tried sneaking out the back door without paying anybody. Well, what do you think happened when the Samoans found out that they weren't getting paid?
they probably caught him up.
Oh yeah. You think you slashing his tires and fucking his car up? They wanted to kill him. They had him in the corner of the locker room. They were going to kill him if he did. He paid everybody. Oh boy.
Yeah. Those guys, interesting that, they would try that shit after having incidents like that. Years later, they would still try to do the same bullshit, recycled again. Mike, do you have anything you want to plug? Like any dates that you're working up in APW? social media?
APW, Newburyport, Massachusetts, September 16th. We're running a show, 6:30 bell time. I do know tickets are on sale at apw.com or AtlanticProWrestling.com. So other than that, that's the only thing I got coming up. My T-shirt business is back up and running, so hint, hint.
Gotta get the plugs in there, man. Gotta get the
Any
I'm actually able to do full color now. I have a direct-to-film machine. So
Okay. All right. Speaking of cheap plugs, we're back in action September 8th at the Woonsocket Training Center and Arena, 126 Main Street in Woonsocket, Rhode Island.
That's perfect.
Then September 15th, we're back at the BFW Hall in Taunton, Massachusetts. This is a Friday night this time around, 7:47 p.m. bell time there. Moving on to October. Is that our first date in October? Is Autumn Fest.
Autumn Fest. Hopefully, we're gonna get that squared away. Are we doing Saturday, Sunday? Are we doing Saturday? Are we doing Sunday? Hopefully, that's coming up. But that will be Columbus Day weekend. Autumn Fest up in Woonsocket. Then we go another week. We're in Taunton on Friday the 13th. Woonsocket on the 14th, and then Millville on the 28th.
The
and
21st. Millville, Mass.
21st. And then our friends over at Powerhouse, we're lending a building to them.
Yep.
To another good friend of yours, Chris Sotaro. Any Chris Sotaro stories? Ever worked with Sotaro?
I worked with Chris. He never really did anything wrong to me. Just never paid me when I worked the shows. Because, again, I was green back then.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, back when he was running, I was getting jobbed out. And, again, it's just the way I was brought up in the business. You don't get paid right away.
Yeah. Well, Franklin, Mass, Elks Lodge, October 28th. Powerhouse Wrestling returns there. You want to get your tickets at Powerhouse NE on Facebook, Instagram, also on YouTube, Powerhouse Wrestling Network. If you want to pull that up, Danny, I don't know if you did, but on the card, Sabio Vega will be in action. Dirty Dango will be in action. Mr. USA Tony Atlas just got at it. He'll be in action. And also the full-blooded Italian, the FBI, Ray Jazz, and Nunzio are on that card. Again, October 28th. Franklin Elks Lodge, 7 p.m. bell time. Powerhouse Wrestling. You want to get your tickets now. The tickets are moving, so don't be left out.
I'm going to have to come out and check that show out.
Yeah, you got to come pay us a visit. The T-shirts are still on sale. Speaking of T-shirts, BWO. You can hit me up on Instagram, direct message me there, or on Facebook at Don Vega and at Pun Don Vega on Instagram. Chris Blackheart.
Everything on Showcase is SP Wrestling on all social media. TikTok is starting to get going again. Some of the boys been really terrible on their videos of it. But Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, everything's going flying on there. Danny, let's get a pop out to a local business in the area. Danny, who's your favorite gun shop? Give them a plug. Mid-State Guns. Danny goes, are you a member there? Yeah. What's their deal? Is it $25 for single, $35 for a double?
For a year, and you guaranteed an hour and a half each time, and you get a off member membership. Basically, you go there for an hour. But if you're a regular member.
All right, so Mid-State, that's right on the Coventry line, Coventry, West Warwick line.
Nope, right in Coventry there.
All right, so it's just in Coventry. What's their social media?
It's on midstateguns.com.
MidstateGuns.com. Go down there for plugs. Go down there and learn. Mike's a 2A guy. Mike, we still have to bring you to the range, or bring you out to, bring you either out to Burrville, out to Wallem Lake. I know we talked about a couple of years ago. Maybe why don't we figure out a date to bring Mike down to the training center, add a bonus day. We'll go to the range before or after, and then we'll invite Paul Holiday to come in, and we'll ask Mike to be nice to him.
Holidays are coming, but not yet.
Yeah.
Holloway.
Oh, do you know what? Because I was getting excited because we're going to some of the booking and events coming up.
Speaking of coming up, earlier today on the YouTube channel, SP Wrestling on YouTube,
Good plug.
the Showcase Pro Wrestling TV show came back on and is returning. Showcase TV every Thursday night, 7:30 p.m. right before the pod. Don't forget to check that out. There's going to be new episodes dropping, interviews, a whole bunch of interesting stuff happening there. So that's going to be every Thursday, 7:30 p.m. live on YouTube right before the Showcase pod.
That's awesome.
Mike, it's that time. It's the name game.
Let's go.
Oh, I thought we were skipping that, but all
We're
right.
not
all right,
skipping
all
that.
right,
We're getting
let's
right
go.
into it. You go first.
That's not an easy one. Walter Kowalski.
Love him to death. Nothing. Can't say nothing bad about Walter. Walter is to me, he's an angel.
Jason Rumble.
One of my best friends in the business. Love Jason. Did a lot of work for him, with him. Been in the ring with him. Did a lot of road trips with him to places that never thought I'd be going to.
Bo Douglas.
Your brother, what can I say? Love Bo. I got nothing bad to say about Bo. I love Bo. Bo's an awesome guy. Another person I consider family.
Chris Blackheart, you got one?
Dude, Trey.
Who?
Trey.
I love Trey. Trey's one of the guys that helped me along in the business. When I was a crowbar, when I first got to Walters, and he taught me how to relax. And I've done wrestling center with him and Quest, Glenn Higgins. So I got nothing bad to say about Trey. Trey, again, family.
Boston Bad Boy. Rocky Raymond. I was gonna say Tony Rumble. May he race.
We've already touched on that, so we'll just skip.
Skip. How about the Boston bad boy Tony Rumble?
Loved Tony to death. Tony was a very straightforward person. We were doing a show at Suffolk Downs, the hot dog festival, and I got in the ring. I was tagging. I forgot who I was tagging with, but it was against the Guther twins. And in the middle of him announcing, he comes up to me. He goes, "Get your ass back to Walters. You're slipping." So Tony was always straightforward, didn't pull any punches, and had the respect of all the boys.
Chris, you got another one?
Yeah. Just in case.
Justin Case is one of my students. Justin Case is another person that I would do anything for. He just retired last weekend. I wanted to get out to see that match, but I could not. I talked to him on a regular, once or twice a week. I've had some good feuds with him up in TWI, so he's my boy.
Here's an odd name just because of an incident that we forgot to bring up. Nicholas Knight.
What about Nick? I love Nick.
Love Nick.
What incident did we forget to bring up?
I think there was a match. I'm not sure. You guys worked.
Oh, are you talking about the Attleboro match?
Yes.
Oh, all right. So, Mike, you may not remember this one, right? It was Knights of Columbus. It was you versus Nicholas Knight. Zach was the referee. Is this the one you're talking about?
Yeah, he did a low blow.
Yeah, you did a low blow like a minute into the match. And
Zach called him out.
Yeah, I wanted to kill him.
Yeah,
I remember that. I'm like, what are you doing? Like, you're an idiot.
Yeah. No, but
at the time he called the match, he saw
he
the
did.
low blow.
He followed. No, but I always told the referees, call it like you see it, and.
I was hot that night.
Oh, you
boy.
were.
Oh, was I hot that night?
You were.
You assholes. I was hot that night.
You were.
Man, was I hot.
Yeah, you were wrong that night too.
So I wasn't sure if you had beef with
No.
Nick.
No.
I don't even
It was
beef with
mostly
Jack.
Zach. Or,
No, that was just in the moment.
But the good part is
I let that go.
He wrestled.
I try not to keep heat with too many
A
people
2 out of
because
3.
it's not worth it.
We turned in 2 out of 3, falls.
Yeah.
That was a good part.
Yeah.
Right.
What was the last one you had there? You had another one written down.
I was gonna put.
Brawler.
It wasn't Brooklyn Brawler when the Brooklyn Bomber won the.
Was he a part of your group there?
No,
at
I
one
don't know.
point?
I don't know if you remember this. The first time I believe I met you, it was a 6-man.
Yeah, it was a 6-man tag. It was Mike, Bomber, and myself, and we got the shit kicked out of us by Nux and Eric Frazier and the other one there, and you covered up and fucking they got pissed at you.
Yeah, they pulled my shit over my head, which made me even hotter. Fucking when we hit the locker room, I fucking got it right in Knuckles' face. What the fuck was that?
And I talked about it with Knuckles, and they did the same shit to me, and I looked at him and smiled. I've always liked chops. I ain't mind them. I ain't care to take them or give them. But yeah, that was I guess Blackheart was in the audience that day.
No,
when we had that match.
Yeah, I remember. No, I remember because that's the first time I remember seeing you.
Yeah.
So that's why it's funny how it.
Did you after you did the New York stuff? Did you team with Bronx Bomber or
It was just that couple shows. I did a couple of shows with him for Tony, and then Tony put me with Trooper and changed my gimmick to Corporal Johnson.
Okay.
And we feuded with Outpatient.
That's the last name. Okay, the Outpatient.
Yeah, and Slam Dog.
Trooper Gilmore, James Allen.
What can you say about Trooper? I love Trooper. Trooper is a unique individual, and I have he entertains me. It's great when I talk to him.
Yeah, all right. One more I was gonna overlook that. I don't know why. The Underground King, Slick Wagner Brown.
Slick Wagner Brown, again, when I got married to my first wife, he showed up in a tuxedo and told me if I needed an alternate, he was ready to go. So what can I say about Wagner? Wagner has an infectious laugh and
You
personality.
you gotta do the lie. Shit.
I can't anymore. I can't anymore. I used to be able to do it all the time. I love Wagner. Wagner again, like them guys like Bo, Chris, you, Jason, Damon. I consider you guys all family because we've been in this business for a long time and we've put each other's lives on the line every time we got in the ring. So I mean, I have no ill will towards too many people in the business.
Yeah, man.
A
It's
few.
definitely been a long time.
Would you like to elaborate on those stories? To tell your side of the story? Because you know people are telling the lies. And this is the good part about the podcast. You can actually put the truth out
That's
there.
another episode, man.
Well, no, we got time. We got 15 minutes for Danny. If you want to correct any of those stories that people are misreading and mishearing.
I tell me a story and I'll tell you if it's wrong or not.
Well, I don't know. All right, so let's go on the Mike Hollow story. Weren't you guys on the right page for a while? And then did something else happen again, or were you guys always off?
So Mike and I got off to a rocky start because Walter's ring broke one day before school, and he asked me and Dan at Freight Train to fix it. So we fixed it, and Mike had a conniption fit and started yelling at Walter, which you don't do that in front of me. I have respect for your elders. That's how I was brought up. So I challenged Mike to come outside, and he wouldn't move. So I said to Walter, as long as that piece of shit's here, I'm never coming back. I won't be back. And Walter got it. He understood. We kind of smoothed things over when I had the school, but I kind of knew what he wanted, and I wasn't going for it. I couldn't afford to pay him. So I just parted ways, and I keep it cordial with Mike now. If I see him, I shake his hand. How you doing? And I go about my business.
Mm-hmm.
So. Now, you also mentioned Scott Reed. What happened there with you and Scott?
Nothing really happened. I don't know. I don't get along with him, I guess. Not really getting it. I really don't have anything bad to say about Scott. It's just something about him rubs me the wrong way. That's all. Okay. And I'm sure I rub him the wrong way. I rub a lot of people the wrong way. I'm rough around the edges. I get that.
Yeah, man. It definitely, to each his own. But nonetheless, we go way back, and it's great catching up with you. Every time we see each other, it's like,
oh yeah, definitely.
It was yesterday. So I'm glad to see that you're still at it. I'm glad to see that you're helping, the younger breed down at APW. And we hope to see you down our way soon.
Let me know. I'm good. Whatever you need.
We appreciate you being on the pod, Mike. You got anything?
No, that being said, Mike, it's hard to think that I've known you for 25, 26 years. So
yeah.
The phone's always on. I literally have the same number since I had back then. So you need something, just reach out. Doesn't matter what time of night it is, good, bad, or indifferent.
I appreciate that.
Everybody says they're a friend, but not a lot of people pick up. And unfortunately,
Well,
this phone picks up a lot. Yeah.
Yeah, except for Rocky.
No, I missed Rocky's call, and it goes to voicemail. With that being said, that number, where is it?
That's great.
Yeah. Save that number for another day.
All right.
But for now,
Listen, I can't find it. Look at me. Look, you think I don't pick up his call?
Yeah, you got a bunch
Look at all
of-
these people here.
he's got a bunch of missed calls, Mike. But for Stiff Mike Apocalypse, for the boss Chris Blackheart, and Don Vega, this has been the Showcase Pod. We'll see you next week. We'll catch you down the road.